And we're live. Welcome to the RGDFS Tournament Takes podcast. I am your host, Chris Kirkwood, Kirkdiese. Also here with my boys, JSURab, the entrepreneur, business owner, CrossFit trainer, everything, name it. This guy does it. House, homeowner, probably mortgage. You have a nice mortgage, or just buy it out with cash? Just be like, bam.
No, it's bought.
All right. And I'm here with Brett Harfield, KillaB2482. Don't know as much about your story, so I don't know.
Hey, it's legit. You just paid straight cash? Straight cash?
It's bought. Yes, it's bought.
Wow. Awesome, man.
That's how he rolls. What happens when you have a good week too?
I love how, though, Chris says, we don't know anything about Brett, and then Brett just throws it right back to me.
Well, what do we want to know? I mean, I had a pretty decent week this past week. It doesn't seem like as good as maybe John's week. It seems like with his AP call, I know he was talking about all of his running backs that he crushed with. So I'll throw it back to you, John.
I crushed my running back spot. I pretty much didn't have a bad running back that I played in my 9 lineups. Really what it came down to was my wide receivers. I just couldn't get a fix on some of my main wide receivers, guys like Doug Baldwin, was in a lot of my lineups. I did talk about Russell Wilson. I loved Russell Wilson this week. He ended up, having a really good game, but just Doug Baldwin, he couldn't drag his feet on that touchdown catch, and the game, it was there. He just wasn't the guy. But go figure on that one. I was a little off at wide receiver, so that made my week, not as big as it probably should have been. But I did give that AP call, which was nice 4% owned, 30-point on DraftKings, so that was pretty cool.
You were seriously the only one that I ever heard talk about AP all week.
I had a friend on him too, but I was like, "You're an idiot."
You didn't call me an idiot.
No, because I respect you. This kid is an idiot. So let's talk about last week on the show. I mean, I come on here and I say, who's the play? Everyone's talking about Martavis. Who's the play? Seth Roberts. Seth Roberts is the play. What happens right off the bat? He busts a nice touchdown. What do I say? Djax. Djax is the play. No, it's snap counts, Godwin. Nope, sorry, it's Djax. He's got the speed advantage. I'm all set. I got Djax in every freaking lineup, right? And then this is talking to my friends all week, these chalk monkeys who sit there and they go, "You can't play Djax. It's such a Godwin's the play. And then Sunday morning rolls around, that stupid report comes out. Djax is requesting a trade. And so then I'm like, all right, it just gave me an excuse to pull him. I pull him, then he rips off. They finally connects. He rips off a touchdown. My day was miserable. I had a good cash lineup, but I barely played any cash. And then I chase it with Steven Adams on NBA slate, and he gets the late scratch 2 minutes after lock. Steven Adams, I was like, yes, center against the Suns. This is so money. No one's gonna be on him, and boom, late scratch.
Yep,
so,
the Steven Adams and the Tyus Jones late scratch.
Yeah, I hit them both, man. I'm 0 for 2 right now. So I just want to get that off my chest. But
I will say this: like when you are playing a tournament player. All it does take is like one little piece of negative news that comes your way, because you can get off a guy.
Your
right?
plays are so thin, right?
I know,
and so you're always like there's so many different thin plays that we're considering, and so it's like any excuse, it knocks you off it. So
hey, I hope it makes you feel better that I'm actually on Deshaun Jackson this week because he gets his boy back.
I'm going Godwin. Going Godwin. That's it. That's what I needed to hear. Godwin.
No.
What? Hey,
Chris, I'm pissed at you because, I guess apparently we were supposed to be on Djax Island, me and you, but, I got left out of the memo on this one.
I need to talk to you at Sunday morning. We need to have a quick chat Sunday morning.
Yeah, Sunday morning we need to have a quick chat before you go on your crunch time lives and stuff like that.
Because I'm I'm figuring out chalk lineups for the people, and so that influences my my own personal GPP lines. It's
basically You are the classic tinker on Sunday. Like, you just freak out with all your lineups. You're like, I don't know what to do, and you just start smashing.
I tinker like no. I told you, whenever I say today by Sunday, I'm completely different. It's just the way.
The best lineups are made when you have like it's 12 o'clock and there's an hour left, and you have about like 10 minutes left. You go over your lineups one more time, and then you just don't look at it the rest of the time unless there's news that breaks, and you just know that your lineups are set. Those are the best weeks for me, I find. When I'm making lineups until 12:59, that scares the crap out of me.
Yeah, if you're freaking out about like your specific plays, it's never good like right up until lock. Like if you're trying to make decisions, that's for sure. Like I always usually try and leave like the last 10 minutes of just firing in over.
No, it's just like I try to make myself miserable. There's nothing that feels worse than when you had a great play and you switch off of them last minute and do a horrible play. Say, for instance, Seth Roberts into Martavis Bryant, something like that. Like, so nothing feels worse. So it's just the pain. I guess I just like the pain.
All right.
Anyway, it's Sport Thinking Show this week. I'm gonna play who I say this tonight and who we talk about tonight, and I'm not gonna budge, and we're gonna see how that works. So we got a nice little slate. As per usual, we've got a monster total, right? Is this the first 60-pointer?
I feel like it is. We've gotten close. We've been like at
the we've been 58, 59, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we are at 60 now, boys. So we've got the Rams, 1-point favorites at the Saints. Drew Brees at home, dome game, 2 absolute great offenses, or at least when New Orleans is at home. This game should be bananas. Right below that, we've got Green Bay kind of against the Patriots, who
not on the main slate, but awesome game, obviously.
Who I've just been – they're constantly overvalued from an over-under perspective. People are thinking that this Pats team is like years past where Brady was just hucking it, and like they've been like tried to be a run team primarily. So their totals have been a little higher than what I think they should be. But, of course, Sony Michel, we don't really know. His status is he's probably not looking like he's going to play, right?
Yeah, I don't think he's trending like he's going to play.
Yeah, he's highly questionable. But, again, that's a Sunday night game. So, I mean, that would be obviously a play for your Thursday through Mondays.
Correct, which is the only thing I have put in at this point, so that's why it's on my mind. So, Right, let's throw that out. That makes no difference. So that's what you get when you do a podcast at midnight. All right, Tampa Bay, Carolina. Now that looks pretty darn good. We've got the quarterback change, Jameis Winston. Let's just get that. Let's just talk about how bad this dude is. You guys watch it?
Yes, I watched it. Brett, you watch it?
Oh yeah. How could you not watch it? Like, and I had
it wasn't just 1, 2, 3. It was the 4 worst interceptions I think I've ever seen.
That one overthrow where he like overthrew the guy.
2 overthrows.
Yeah.
Monster overthrows.
Yes.
Horrendous.
I hope Fitzpatrick keeps this job the rest of the year. I really hope so. He deserved to keep it, even with his bad half that he had before he got pulled.
Right.
So it was obviously a situation where they were going to Jameis no matter what. And then, Fitzpatrick had this bad half, and it gave him the excuse to pull him. But then look at Fitzpatrick coming in last half, and what do you have, a quarter and a half, and he just, like,
crushed it.
Lights scorches the earth on fire and brings them back. Like,
yep. And then we've got KC, which is kind of going to be a sneakier game. Like, this is probably a good spot. KC offense is probably going to be a little bit lower owned than typical, and a tough matchup with the Browns in Cleveland. Mm-hmm. We'll get to that game. But then other than that, I mean, I'm not excited about a Redskins game, except unless JSU tells us to play old man Adrian Peterson.
I don't think I am on shock Adrian Peterson.
It's not going to be.
There's no chance.
Oh man, I'm telling you, people target running backs versus Atlanta. I don't care.
Pass catching running back.
I don't care. If Chris Thompson doesn't play, then one of those running backs from Washington will be targeted and will be somewhat chopped. It's going to end up that.
How's NBA going? Should we just make this an NBA podcast? How you guys been doing in NBA?
Closer contests. We got an NFL show to do here. Come on.
All right. Okay, so where do we begin? So what's okay? Let's just talk about like cash perspective, like quarterbacks. It's probably like Breeze or Goff this week.
I think Cam Newton's going to be
Cam
pretty popular here. I mean, obviously home against Tampa Bay. We were just talking about last year what his price would be, and this year he's stuck at 6,600. I mean. This is a spot where no quarterbacks really failed versus Tampa Bay. So, and the nice part is it's like we know what Carolina offense does, so most of the offense goes through Cam anyway. So, and
he's been looking good.
Yeah, and Christian McCaffrey I think is going to be more effective, through the air than on the ground here. So, I really like
the perfect. This is like Cam's at home. Oh wait, Cam's at home too, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, this is where he loves to steal that spotlight.
So for me, if you're looking at cash, I think like Jared Goff and Cam Newton are the two obvious cash plays. Jared Goff has a really safe floor. So does Cam. Cam throws the ball about 70% of the time, 70-30 run, pass run. So those two guys I think are easily going to be the top cash plays. I think GPP plays is more Drew Brees, Pat Mahomes, Ryan Fitzpatrick. Those are guys that I'm looking to target in GPPs. Maybe even the Deshaun Watson is someone I think no one's going to come near, but someone you could look at in GPPs just to be different. But all these quarterbacks are super cheap. Like I don't want to pay down too much for quarterbacks. There's no reason. You got Drew Brees at 6,100. It's like the perfect GPP tournament play. Kirk Cousins 62.
Yeah, and Kirk Cousins is just chucking it like 40 times a game.
Yeah, one guy that I would throw out there as a quarterback too, and this is going to be kind of very low owned, I would assume, is Alex Smith against Atlanta. Like I'd rather invest in the passing game.
I'm with Chris here.
This guy is so terrible.
So he always has one game or two games a year at $5K in a game that they're supposed to score 25 implied. I like this spot for a low.
So let me give you a guy. This is a guy that I'm going to definitely take a shot with in GPPs for quarterbacks. This is the tourney play. It's Case Keenum at 4,900. All right. He just lost one of his weapons. Demaryius goes to Houston. Houston let up points to the Miami Dolphins and Brock Osweiler last week. Got shredded by the running back. I think Phillip Lindsay in the passing game is a really good play. Case Keenum, Phillip Lindsay, Emmanuel Sanders, Cortland Sutton, doing like a QB and running back wide receiver pair, or a QB 2 wide receiver pair, I think is a really nice stack. It just stinks that these quarterbacks like Cam Newton are 6,600 in amazing spots. He should be 775, 8K in this spot against Tampa Bay. It's hard not to just take him and play him in all of your lineups, but I won't, because I want to differentiate a little being a tournament player, but it just stinks.
Yeah. I agree with that. Like, I mean, Case Keenum it was always tough to kind of pair a Denver guy confidently. I mean, Emmanuel Sanders has been like the cash game wide receiver there. It's interesting this week because we know that Cortland, is it Sutton or Sutton?
Yep.
Sutton. Yep.
We know he's going to be the chalk this week. So I think you're going to get Emmanuel Sanders for, pretty cheap percentage because everybody's going to be clicking on the Sutton. So I like Sanders because I just feel like that consistency in the slot has been there all year long. I feel like, Sutton still had a lot of targets throughout the year and really hasn't produced with those targets. Like, it's been very inefficient. So I'm still cool with going stronger on Sanders here than Sutton in tournaments.
Yeah, 100%. Sanders has been the guy for Case Keenum all year. That just because Demaryius Thomas gets traded, that doesn't change it. He's been the guy.
Oh, it changes that. They're gonna unleash Sutton. They're gonna have. They've been talking about it forever, but like they're gonna this is where they have to, especially when they're playing against Demaryius.
Yes, but I'm saying to you is Emmanuel Sanders is still his favorite target.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He's still his favorite target.
I mean, every single week he was outdoing Demaryius.
But, but listen, you could play them both. Now it's viable where you could play both these guys. Right. Especially if you're playing Case Keenum, you probably want two of his weapons. So, I mean, it's a pretty easy stack to make, and you can fit in guys like Gurley, guys, like McCaffrey. You can get higher price guys with like a Sutton, Sanders, Keenum stack, or a Lindsey. I think it's cool to pair the running back with Keenum. Just from watching that Houston, Houston's defense is not – they're attackable, through the pass. They can be beat.
And you just got to like what Phil Lindsay showed last week. He had 21 touches. Royce Freeman hasn't been practicing this week. So, again, the targets are very we know what they're trying to do on the offensive end. It's just been cleared up a little bit with the trade and then with Royce Freeman not playing. So I would like to go towards steering towards Phil Lindsay instead of buying the Sutton chalk in tournaments. That's for sure.
Yeah, I can see that. I don't really have a ton of interest in this. This game is kind of meh to me.
You don't have any interest in DeAndre Hopkins?
I do. That's about it.
Okay.
And Watson Hopkins, but that's the easy play, and then run it back with Sutton. But I don't know. I don't know. I just look at all these other games and I just get a little bit more excited.
Do we know is Demaryius Thomas is for sure going to be playing and starting?
I believe so.
I would assume that he's going to play. I wouldn't assume that he's going to play the whole game or. He's not going to know a lot of the playbook. They're not going to run him out there on every single snap, I don't think.
Right. And Kiki's been limited in practice on Wednesday and Thursday, so I mean he should be more than fine there. But I think DeAndre Hopkins is still the guy to bring it back with if you're doing a stack here.
Yep.
All right, let's talk about some running backs here.
All right.
Todd the God again. Got a nice little Twitter thread brewing with Derek Carty, which is always
is it
always entertaining. Yes, saying that he's not an optimal play.
Yeah,
and Carty's a nice guy, but oh my God, why this Todd Gurley take about how he's going to regress and he can't keep up with his touchdown scoring, and I think Grant put a tweet out where it was Carty was talking about how he wasn't going to be able to sustain a touchdown per game, and this was a couple of weeks ago, and he's already on pace to pretty much break that with one more touchdown.
Yeah, and we can't take statistical snapshots from going back 15, 20 years because today's NFL is totally different. He's on the best offensive team. I mean, it's basically the Rams or KC. And the guy, just what the coaches are doing once they're in the red zone, it's just the ball is going to go to Gurley consistently there. It's just a spot where, he's going to get over a touchdown per game, even in the future. It's just going to happen.
Difference in the Rams and the Chiefs is that the Rams, when they get in the red zone, run the ball. They make plays to get Todd Gurley the ball, even if it's in the pass game, but they make plays to get him the ball specifically. Whereas Andy Reid he gives the ball to Pat Mahomes a lot in the red zone. Mm-hmm. Says, do it in the red zone. He gives the ball to Pat Mahomes. So, I mean, what these coaches want to do. Sean McVay wants to run the ball in the red zone. I don't know if it's because he wants to break a record or whatever the reason is. I just think he thinks it's the best chance for him to win. He's getting his best player the football, and that's what you do. If I have Todd Gurley, I'm going to get him the football. That's
seriously, if you look at success rates inside like the 5-yard line, running the ball, especially in 3 wide receiver, is the way to succeed inside the 5. So, I mean, he's nailing it on the head, like with metrics, like by running the ball inside the 5, especially with how efficient they are with their offensive line and just running in general. So
let's be honest, he's by far the smartest guy on the field most of the time. So
yeah, him and Belichick for sure.
Him and Belichick, yeah.
Worlds ahead.
Being a parent can be really challenging. It's normal to feel uncertain about whether you're doing the right things to raise healthy and happy children. That's why Child and Family Resource Network focuses on connecting pregnant parents and those with kids under the age of 5 with free support services to help them build confidence in their parenting journey. Everyone deserves to have someone they can turn to for support with parenting. Visit childandfamilyresourcenetwork.org today.
You have any interest in these cheap guys? So we've got Nick Chubb. He's getting a lot of love this week. He's 4,500. I think there's people who might actually play Jordan Howard, which I think is probably a mistake, to be honest with you. But I've heard some talk about him.
I just wrote him up in the old GBP takes on Lineup HQ. So I'm on Team Jordan Howard this week. So. Yeah,
you're going to lose.
So I'll just give you my take. So the reason why I like it is obviously they're favored by 10. So you got to like that. Last week in a similar situation where they beat the Jets, I want to say by 14 or 17. Jordan Howard out-touched, I want to say it was like 18 to 6 with touches. So out-touched the backfield by quite a bit. But I think what's going to happen is people will still be on Tariq Cohen there just because he had a 70-yard reception for a touchdown. So I feel really good about where his ownership lies. Like it's going to be less than 5%. And we haven't seen a monster Jordan Howard game yet. So I think this is just a spot where it's a not only an ownership play, but he did close the game too last week. He had 22 touches. 16 out of his 22 touches were in the second half. That's why I was thinking of the 16. And then it was like 10 carries for 54 yards in the fourth. So I think this is a spot where they can kind of do the same thing. The defense should be able to shut down Buffalo. They should have plenty of like short fields, and I think he's still got 2 touchdown upside here. So I like Jordan Howard for sure in tournaments.
Well, I see it differently. So the game script pretty much fit Howard last week, and Howard was not effective. He did get the touches. I do see the touch difference. However, they didn't need Cohen to do much in that game. But basically, the Bills just allow so much through the pass to running backs, 6 most fantasy points through the air to running backs, and they are really good at stopping just regular carries, which is Jordan Howard. I just don't see Jordan Howard being that effective against this defense, and I see them going to right back to kind of their playmaker when they need to, and Tariq Cohen this week. So I think that Howard's going to get a lot of love. I get it. He's priced so cheap. You think the Bills, you see the total. I get all of that. I just still think that the more effective guy in this matchup should be Tariq Cohen.
Yeah, it's just kind of betting on the coaching staff, which is totally different from last year, where they would take the ball basically out of Trubisky's hands in certain games, and they would just give it to Howard left and right. I just feel confident that it's still that type of game, especially in the second half. I get the love for Tariq Cohen based upon DVOA. The Bills are susceptible to pass catching backs, but I don't know, feel really strong that Howard gets the touches here in the second half, and feel pretty confident in his touchdown equity.
Settle it, JSU.
Yeah, so I would still side on the Tyreek Cohen wagon. I'm kind of with Chris from the standpoint that I think he's right when he says that, they didn't really need Tyreek Cohen to do that much last game. I also think that the Bills' defense, although they're a really good pass defense, I think they do struggle a little bit against running backs out of the backfield. And I think that the Bears will kind of watch what the Patriots did with James White and stuff and kind of mimic that. I do like Tyreek Cohen. I think it fits him a little more. I just don't trust that they're also going to give Jordan Howard the ball, 22 times. I just don't trust it. I need to see them do it another week in a row before I trust that.
And then do we have any news on Allen Robinson? Do you guys think he's going to play?
Let's see. What's his practice like?
I don't know. I just know.
So he hasn't practiced either yesterday or today. So yeah, normally on these questionable practices, I kind of wait. I don't feel very strong with any of these pass receivers, but you removed him out of the offense, right? I mean, you gotta feel a little bit better about Anthony Miller and Taylor Gabriel, but nothing.
But I kind of want. So the big thing is Tre'Davious White, and I'd rather them just stick Tre'Davious White on Allen Robinson, whether he's hobbled or not, and that would open up stuff for Gabriel and Anthony Miller. I don't know what they would do if Robinson's out, and then are they gonna use Tre'Davious White on Gabriel? I don't really know.
Yeah, I just feel like this is a spot where Trubisky doesn't have to throw for 200 yards, so I think I'm going to be staying away from the receivers. Outside of, maybe throwing in Tariq Cohen exposure, I don't like the pass catchers here.
All right.
Yeah, I only like Tariq Cohen in this game. I think the running back that you guys might be a little missing in that Jordan Howard range is Chris Carson. I like Chris
volume. The volume's going to be there.
The volume is definitely going to be there at 4,700. Seattle is obviously trying their best to just run the ball down everyone's throats. Then they've been doing a really good job of it too. He played 6% of the snaps last week, which is encouraging. It's more than half the snaps, which we like to see. So I just kind of like the volume that he's getting, and I can trust that Seattle's at least going to attempt to run the ball as much as possible. Whereas with Jordan Howard, I just don't trust that he's going to get 22 carries.
Yeah, I really think Carson's going to be chalkier at that price range. So, my Jordan Howard play is just to get a guy that's going to be single-digit % owned. I would assume Jordan Howard's not going to be more than 5% owned. So, but yeah, I agree. Carson.
You think Carson's going to be chalky?
Yeah.
Even with Nick Chubb below him? Even with Nick Chubb below him, you think Carson's going to be chalky?
Yeah, I don't have a good gauge of where Nick Chubb's going to go. But, again, Nick Chubb, it seems like outside of, carrying the ball, he's not going to catch the ball. So –
no, I'm not on Nick Chubb. I'm just saying I think people are going to be on him.
Yeah,
a starting running back at 4,500. I'm not on him. I'm just saying, yeah,
it's going to get the goal line against a terrible rush defense.
Right, but the thing is, with all the chaos that's going on in Cleveland, what's their game plan actually going to be?
Dave's script is going to be, them down because they're going to be losing from start to finish pretty much.
Right. Yeah, and I could see them still losing by a couple touchdowns, but him getting 20+ carries still for whatever reason. They kind of just shut down the offense. But
the passing game for the Chiefs is going to go severely underowned.
Yep, I like it.
That is the GPP play. Even Kareem Hunt. I think Kareem Hunt. I'm not saying he disappointed, but he didn't put out the performance that I think people were expecting last week. So I think from that standpoint, I think he's the lowest owned of the higher priced running backs. You guys agree? Maybe besides James Conner. Out of Hunt, Gurley, McCaffrey, and Kamara, I think he's the fourth highest of those guys, or the lowest of those guys.
Everything that you just said right there is what I put in my blurb too on Lineup HQ. I just said this is the perfect ownership play. Just we're at his price point. And then kind of just went off on how Cleveland is basically a run funnel at this point in time. They're number one DVOA versus the pass, and then they're 27th versus the runs. So I think this is a spot. Yeah, people are going to have the last week bias too on them. So
it's a perfect matchup.
All right, let's take it over to wide receiver, and then we'll talk about a game afterwards. But let's try to give some GPP plays here in this wide receiver section. But let's address the situation first off with Golden Tate out of Detroit. The problem with so you get a nice concentrated passing attack now with what should be two main guys with Marvin Jones and Kenny Golladay, and maybe the emergence of Kenny Golladay, what we've been waiting for all season, where he's flashed it but hasn't quite taken advantage of the skill set that we see. But they just don't run a lot of plays in Detroit, and they're happy to actually run the ball for a ton of those plays. So they have an emerging running game, and Kerryon Johnson, an emerging running back, and then Theo Riddick back potentially this week. How do you guys are you interested in Golladay, Marvin Jones? They're probably going to get a good amount of ownership here.
Yeah, John. I mean, personally, I'm on Golladay more than Marvin Jones, and Marvin Jones got the 2 touchdowns last week, but Galladay's been seeing more snaps out of the slot, so should be staying away from Xavier Rhodes a little bit more. So that's kind of like why I have just more love for Golladay. They're going to have to pass the ball in Minnesota. I don't expect them to be winning in this game for most of the game. So I'm going to expect them to have to pass quite a bit.
Yeah. So last week I was on, obviously I had Seattle and Detroit as one of my favorite games targets. So I was on Kenny Golladay and Marvin Jones, both kind of mixed and matched in different lineups. But this week I'm kind of leaning more towards Golladay with you, just because he does play a little more in the slot. So you might see less of Xavier Rhodes. Marvin Jones might see a little more. Mm-hmm. But I still think for their prices, they're both playable. I think Jones, because of recency bias, might be a little higher owned. And just because Golladay the past, 3 or 4 weeks is really kind of disappointed. So, or 2 weeks, whatever it was, has just had bad games. So I'm going to be more on Golladay than I am Jones.
Right, and Golladay is $200 more. So, that $200 goes a long way, I think, just in ownership. But, yeah, with the last week bias, too, I really like paying up here for Golladay.
Actually, my favorite play on the board. We'll get to it. Let's all talk about the Rams game after this game. But two of my favorite plays are in that game. But minus that, I really like Juju this week. Does anyone else have that same feeling? He's gets a pretty good height advantage, size advantage on Tavion Young in the slot here. Greg Cosell on the Matchups podcast was talking about it, and I can definitely see it. And I just don't think he's going to get much ownership this week. What are you guys thoughts?
I kind of agree. This game's in Baltimore. We know exactly what Roethlisberger does on the road. So I think you're right on. Nobody's going to be owning Juju whatsoever. So that's going to be a very, very low on play.
Yeah, I do kind of like that. I think he's definitely, in my opinion, going to get a lot of looks on a defense where I think they're going to struggle to run the ball. And that's going to create more opportunities, I think, for him in the pass game. So I like that play. I like that call.
And then Devontae Parker. This guy should get a boatload of targets. Came back out of the woodworks last week. What are your
trap? Chris, I'm calling trap right here.
Oh,
this
but
they have trap, guys.
They got to throw it to him.
But no, he's gonna limp off with an injury after 5 minutes. Just wait. The guy isn't Kenny Stills gonna be back? Is he?
I got him as questionable.
He did practice Thursday, so that's definitely news to monitor. Obviously, if he's out, then I can understand people kind of going and looking at one of these wide receivers. But I don't know. I personally think Jakeem Grant, to me, if I had to pick a receiver, that'd be the guy that I would take. I mean, people are going to look at it and say, oh, Devontae Parker played 100% of the snaps. Danny Amendola played 98. Well, Jakeem Grant played 95. And I think he's the best wide receiver, and he's got the most explosiveness and athletic ability. So he's more of like a guy that I would like to take a shot on, who will be no-owned pretty much because of the Cortland Suttons, the DJ Moores, those type of guys that are down there. So this guy's going to kind of get forgotten. Devontae Parker's down there too. So I like Jakeem Grant a little bit if I had to choose between a wide receiver.
Yeah, I'd be on Jakeem Grant too. It seems like he gets those type of gadgety plays that are set up for him. And just based upon the eye test, he does seem pretty explosive. So I don't know. Devontae Parker, man, like he's tall. He's got the tools. But I just feel like he might be like just mentally weak. Just looks for a way to get off the field at times. So, yeah, I'd rather invest my hard-earned dollars into Jakeem Grant here.
Devontae Parker listens to the podcast, actually. I've been informed. So maybe he'll give us a tweet. If anybody listens to the podcast, give us a tweet. Let us know. I have no idea.
Right?
Do you guys have any idea?
No.
I know we got one girl who listens to it.
Hey, the boss man says we have halfway decent numbers. So that's
okay.
That's all I've heard. So
there you go. All right, we'll take halfway decent.
Yeah.
Halfway's better than quarterway decent. Yeah.
Right. So cheap pivots that I want to talk about, like under 5K. I think DJ Moore might be going overlooked a little bit. He stepped in. Who was injured last week? It was Torrey Smith. Yeah. Stepped into kind of a full-time role. His measurables are off the charts. Like, I really like everything about him. Was successful versus the Ravens, a team that obviously shuts off the pass. He had five catches for 90 yards on 6 targets. So this is a spot where you can get a piece of the second highest owned game, 55-point over-under at 4,300, and yeah, it's $400 more than Sutton on DraftKings, but you can pay up to be a little bit contrarian. I think I don't know exactly where everybody is on him right now. I haven't really done too much listening to other people or taking in other information yet from other sources, but like DJ Moore, I just feel really confident in him having a nice game, especially if he's seeing the same snap count and routes run that he saw last week.
Yeah, so I did end up on DJ Moore last week with my final lineup after the Smith news came out. Just kind of throwing him in as a GPP dart. Definitely a guy that shouldn't be overlooked. So if he's being overlooked, then that's wrong. I don't think by the end of the week, with all the information out there and all the content and stuff like that, I don't think this guy gets overlooked. If he does, it's a great tournament play. But I think what happens is DJ Moore becomes chalk, and we get Devin Funches for half the ownership that DJ Moore comes in at. And Funches is the better receiver.
I love Funches this week.
He's the better receiver. He's a better red zone target. He's only 5,600. And probably one of the 2 best games to target on the entire slate, if not the best game. Probably the best matchup from the standpoint that the Tampa Bay Bucks have the worst pass defense in the whole NFL. All right. So I don't know. I just think Funches is the guy. I will have some DJ Moore, but I'm going to have more Funches than DJ Moore.
I agree. I love Funches, but we're running out of time here. So let's move it on over to the big 60-point total and just throw out a couple of ways to play this game. I personally, I think that this could be an absolute blow-up spot for Michael Thomas. The Saints are really hard to predict and project. It's like any of these guys could go off any week, but like if they decide they used Marcus Peters to shadow Devontae Adams last week, and if they do that again this week, Thomas should be able to have his way in that type of a matchup here. In a lot of single coverage, and I think that he could have a monster week.
Yeah, I'm totally on board with Michael Thomas. I don't exactly know where his ownership will be, but I just feel the most confident. I think if you're paying up, Thomas probably is going to be the chalkier guy, especially in a 60-point matchup. A lot's going to depend on the Kamara news. Kamara's questionable, hasn't been practicing yet. So, if Kamara is out, like, there's going to be so much ownership in the Ingram and Michael Thomas camp
I think
already.
So. Kamara's just sick, right?
Yeah, I don't know. Is he just sick?
Yes. An illness.
Okay.
Yeah. So, I mean, that
so he'll probably play. But either way, I mean, like, Michael Thomas is still a great play. I think Alvin Kamara is a great play. I think it's encouraging that he saw 70% of the snaps last week, whereas the weeks before he was more in the 50 to 60 range of snaps. So I did like that. They're definitely going to need him on the field. So I think he's a really good play. I think Traquan Smith is the guy that in the 4K range could be the guy that gets kind of overlooked in GPPs, and I'd like to take a shot with someone like him, in this game total. I like Traquan Smith this week.
You really think he gets overlooked?
Well, with DJ Moore, with Courtland Sutton, you think he's going to be the chalk? I don't know. He had some real bad games.
Yeah, but he had a break.
Moore's coming off a good game. Courtland Sutton, everyone's been touting about. Everyone will tout about. All of these guys can't all be like.
Don't overlook a 60-point game total and what that does for ownership.
All right, but I think Thomas is cheap. Thomas and Kamara are cheap enough where people are going to want the sure things. If Kamara was 9K, I'd be totally in agreement with you. If Michael Thomas was 8,500 like he should be, I would totally agree with you. But they're not. They're super easy to stack with threes. It is not hard with all this chalk.
And you know
They're
who
underestimating it. The price.
You know who the easy play is? Cooper Kupp.
I thought you were going to say Todd Gurley.
No, I mean, that's
9,500. He's 9,500 on DraftKings.
I put him in every lineup every week. Doesn't matter.
It's just how? How does he go down? I don't get it. I'm done talking about Todd Gurley.
But if you put Kupp and Gurley, you get like all the touchdowns this week.
I was definitely under-owned for Gurley last week. Where do you guys stand this week in tournaments? If he's going to be 25 to 30% owned in tourneys, do you kind of want to take a stand, or you want to be right there?
If he's 25%, I'll have him in every single lineup. There's no way he's 25%. Look at the running backs that are on the board compared to last week. I mean, last week we had everybody. We had Joe Mixon. We had James Conner in a smash spot. Kareem Hunt in a smash spot. Phillip Lindsay at a cheap price. We had Marlins Mack at a cheap price, even though he got overlooked because of the injury thing. But, still, he was at a cheap price. So I
think we've already talked about all the value at wide receiver too, that allows you to pay up at running back. So I'm kind of with you there. Yeah.
It's going to be so easy. There's no way Todd Gurley is not at least 40% owned. There's no way. I see it more like 40 to 50% than 25 to 30.
I'm going to tell you, when I look at my RG Chrome extension, and I look up at my DraftKings lineups percentage, it's going to say 100% next to Todd Gurley.
The guy that I want to have probably the highest share of that's going to be chalky will be Michael Thomas. I think I'll be eating the chalk there for sure. I see the Saints passing a ton at home. in the dome, and Thomas has such a high percentage of that.
You want to know the guy that everyone should have the highest exposure to? That's a wide receiver. We haven't even talked about him yet, and we even glossed over the game. It's the best wide receiver in the league right now. Adam Thielen.
Yeah, Thielen.
The best wide receiver in the league. He's gonna get overlooked. It's gonna be amazing.
He's for sure gonna get overlooked because now he's
amazing. And he's in the best matchup. Tease Taborn, I think is the guy's name. He's been terrible.
I got Nevin Lawson in the slot.
You got Nevin Lawson in the slot?
Yeah.
Maybe I said that wrong.
I got a feeling.
Either way, he gets a huge height advantage too. He gets six inches versus this Nevin Lawson.
Either way, they.
All right, that's how we're gonna end the show right there with Brett's 6 inches. And thank you for tuning in to the RG DFS Tournament Takes podcast, and we'll catch you next week.